a fail level of a 0.030. Also, the ignition interlock options are their standard units, their cellular, their GPS, and their real-time reporting. Also, they have to have for violations and 72-hour callback. And what would happen there is the device would itself have an area where it'll show the client that they have 72 hours. It'll have a countdown. And those violations would be they would get locked out of for those reasons that when they started, they violated, where they skipped or failed a rolling retest, that they test at or above the fail level, and also that they miss their service appointments. And those service appointments are really important because that's when the equipment gets calibrated and the information gets downloaded. And this is just a general idea there of what it looks like. The features, it has an unlock code. It's also set up with driving restrictions. On the installation, the client signs a lease agreement. The fees are due at the time of service. And I'm sure you're going to ask that question. And for the ignition interlock, it is $69.95 plus tax a month. Excuse me? $69.95 plus tax that they would pay a month. They're responsible for the device. They get written instructions. They get technical training at the service centers. And they get a program checklist. They also get to see a ignition interlock training video at whatever service center that they were to go to. This is kind of what the installation would look like. They would drive up, and they could drive up to any service center. They don't need an appointment. They would know when they sign their contract when they're required to report for servicing. And they would get it calibrated and our information downloaded. And then some of the myths that we hear. The interlock drains my car battery. False. The only way that it may drain is that the vehicle hasn't been started for several consecutive days. And what we ask the monitoring authorities is to look at that. Maybe the person isn't driving that vehicle and they're driving one that doesn't have the ignition interlock. The NyQuil myth, this population seems to use a lot of, at least they claim a lot of mouthwash and NyQuil and all these other kind of products. For example, NyQuil contains 10% ethanol. The correct dosage, if we were to take it correctly, would be 1 ounce every 6 hours. So a 12-ounce beer would maybe be the equivalent of a 5-ounce glass of wine and 6 ounces of NyQuil. So say we take for example, the average 200-pound male, and he drinks 5 drinks in an hour. Well, that would probably put them at a 0.09 BAC. NyQuil, 30 ounces, which would be 1 liter, would put it at a 0.09 BAC. So the time NyQuil was consumed, say 11 o'clock at night. Time of ignition interlock test, say in the morning at 7 a.m. The amount of NyQuil needed for a 140-pound woman to be at a 0.04 at 7 a.m. would be 26 ounces. So what we tell we train the monitoring authorities to know about all that and the calculations and the general idea of BACs. They may say the vehicle's broken down, it's inoperable. Well, the monitoring authorities are asked to ask, well, what's wrong with the vehicle? Have the repairs been done by a certified mechanic? Maybe do a visual inspection. Is it actually in the vehicle? Maybe ask them to start the vehicle. A lot of times people want to transfer, maybe even from a vendor or to another vehicle, an ignition interlock. It is required that both vehicles be present at the time of the transfer. Positives from non-restrictive sources, as I just mentioned, that people use mouthwash and all these other things. Mouthwash is mentioned here. Breath fresheners, energy drinks, food and beverages. That's why if they were to test and it would show that they have failed, they'll be asked to retest. So if it is something that they have drank, it'll dissipate and they'll show that they're fine. Regarding removals and reports, the monitoring authorities will get an installation notification, whether the client did go and get their ignition interlock installed. Also, non-installations, they'll get notified. They'll get an event summary. They'll get a log file and a removal. Lockout will only happen again if they have not serviced their vehicle or there's been a violation. And it's kind of hard to see here, but in your packet, I probably is hard to see also in there. That's generally what the summaries look like that the monitoring authorities receive from Smart Start. So it's detailed as to the starts of the vehicle, if they've had fails. Also, Smart Start has the portable alcohol monitoring devices, and they're called the in-home units. And we have the standard, which is the same price as the ignition interlock, and this is a plug-in unit. And the client brings it in just like the ignition interlock once a month for servicing and downloading, same price. And then there is a cellular unit, and that one is $99 plus tax a month. That one, the difference is it doesn't require the client to come in monthly for calibration. They can wait 6 months to come in, calibrate it, and for us to download it. The definitions, well, they're programmable test periods, and according to the client's work schedule, school schedule, etc. There's random testing periods. There's an event log. Again, the BAC failure for the in-home unit is a 0.02, different than the ignition interlock, which is a 0.03. And they're camera equipped, so this is kind of what the picture would look like. The monitoring authorities can get online. They have a website, and they can monitor that, and they can actually click on the icon that has the pictures and see who actually took the breath sample. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you know what the ingredient of energy drinks is that creates a false positive on this?
I guess they contain alcohol, some alcohol, but it dissipates. They don't? Okay, I haven't looked at one, so I don't know. But if it is an energy drink, if it does show positive, that's why it will retest them, and it'll dissipate, and they'll be not failing.
How much later? Yeah, how much later do they read?
It's a matter of, I think, about 15 minutes.
What are the foods that get a positive?
The foods?
Yeah.
I don't have specifically that. I can get that for you. Yes, sir.
What's the startup cost? Instead of $69.95 a month.
Right. That would be it, and there's usually not an installation fee. It will depend on the vehicle. If it's a more complicated vehicle, some of the newer vehicles, there may be an installation fee because it's time consuming.
What is the installation fee?
I'm not sure. The person outside is a technical person that oversees all the service centers and probably could give you a better estimate. We have a table outside where we could answer some more specific questions. Okay. Anybody else?
With regards to the energy drinks creating the positive, I mean, do you ask someone, what they've had to eat and drink that day? Because, I know personally, my boyfriend will drink, sometimes 6 energy drinks in a day, and sometimes those are back to back to back. So they'd have, if he had it, he'd go fail. I mean, and he wouldn't touch a drop of alcohol. It was just energy drinks. So, I mean, is there some sort of accountability there to figure out what it was? I mean, because that's, a lot of people drink energy drinks, and I mean, some more than others,
Yeah.
but there's got to be a way to, I mean, is there a way
Yeah.
to?
I don't know. I would think that I would, as a person who talks to the monitoring authorities, I would ask them to be asking the offender questions.
I had a case not long ago involving one of these where the client had failed because of energy drinks, and the machine locks you out after 3 failed attempts for 30 minutes, and then you go back and retest, and if you pass, well, then you're all right. Well, if not, then you may probably be in trouble.
So basically, we just need to tell our clients, don't drink energy drinks.
Probably.
And be careful what you eat. I don't know what you know here.
I had another one fail.
Unless you have something else, you have something else?
Well, thank you, and if you'll please stop by our table, we do have some information for you, our product brochure, and we also have a little flyer that has laws pertaining to ignition interlock. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Thank you. All righty, we have Captain McKenzie here to answer your questions and tell you about jail procedures and policies. If you want to come up, and he'll let you know all about it. And I think this is not a PowerPoint presentation, but the documents that he presented are in your books, okay? You may proceed.
Can everybody hear me?
Into the mic.
Good morning. My name's Mike McKenzie. I'm the Assistant Chief Deputy in charge of jail operations for the Nueces County Sheriff's Office. To give you a little more bearing on that, I have 231 sworn-in civilian employees that work for me.
Please speak up.
Okay. I just tell them I have 231 sworn and civilian staff that work for me, and we handle 1,068 is the capacity for the county jail. Right now, that's getting stretched to the very seams. Most of you in here, I've known for several years. That's why I introduced myself. But some of you I don't know personally. Some of us go even further back than here. As I stated earlier, we're at a 1,068 capacity facility. And in that facility, we feed over 3,000 meals a day. We're 24/7 with a video system. Currently, we're replacing it with a $500,000 replacement. I enjoy coming over and doing this mainly for the fact that, yes, sir? You can't hear?
You gotta really speak in.
Okay.
Speak loud.
Can you hear me back there now? Okay. I like to take this chance to come over because what we have is a lot of people say law enforcement is a closed society. Wait till the Sally Port door in the jail goes down. Nobody really knows what goes on. We have a medical provider in the facility that works for us. Every person that comes in the jail is seen by a registered nurse and then referred from there. We have a TB program, because you can imagine what that would be like if we had a communicable disease breakout inside a facility of our size. You know, on your handouts, I had included my captains also. Under each captain, you'll see what their assignments are and what they cover. If you should have any questions of any type, that would be the captain that you would contact. If they're not available, I always am. I've also included my cell number, and don't be shy about using it. I don't mind getting calls. Yeah, it happens all the time. I think everybody's got my cell number, so y'all should too. On the last couple of pages of this is just kind of a breakdown of what we can and can't do for you, what we expect of you, and what you should expect of us. If there's any special needs that you might have, please contact us and we'll do whatever we can to make sure that you get accommodated. You'll also notice now we also allow in recording devices. We have a conference room if you need a one-on-one with your client and you have to show them video or share evidence with them or whatever you might need. We do have a few hours in here where we really are not able to help you out, and that's your breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals. Jail Standards has a ruling that they can't have more than 14 hours between each meal, and it's a real delicate balance. We start feeding at 4:30 in the morning, and you see how it just keeps on going on through the day. Speaking of that, our kitchen, I'll have you know we pass every inspection, and we use inmate labor to clean it up. But I would almost guarantee you that my kitchen is cleaner than the restaurant you ate in a couple of days ago.
Kitchen cop stickers.
For some reason, they won't give it to us, and I do not know why. I'm gonna have to fight with them over that one. Also, your meals where I said that, also where your meals, where I was telling you we may not have time to work you in, there will be those times that something has happened and we have to lock down the facility, and it'll be for your safety as well as ours. After such an incident, if you need to still see your client, that will not be a problem whatsoever. Yes, ma'am.
I called up Cisco numerous times to, ask that one of my clients call me, and depending on who I get a hold of, I get a different answer. Most of the time, okay, they'll set it up and it'll go smoothly, I'll get a call within 30 minutes. But, occasionally I get that response, we don't allow that.
If that's not an acceptable answer, I don't think it is either. Please call me.
Okay.
We will.
I had that happen less than a month ago, a gentleman told me, and then, other than that, the only problems I have getting my clients to call me is, for some reason, they're not getting the message to call me, because I won't get a message, I won't get a call back, and I have to call like 2 or 3 times, say, look, can you get this client to call me, because I can't make it down there. You know, and what do we do to alleviate that, so we can talk to our clients, if we can't actually make it in person?
This administration has done everything they can as far as trying to accommodate this, because y'all are important to us. You get people out of jail. I love defense lawyers and bail bondsmen. Yes, sir.
The hours for the meals listed on your packet here are different from what we have as far as we can make the visits. Basically, the lunch that we can visit is, you can't visit from 10:15 to 11:45, and the sheet here says 10:30 to 11:30.
I think you have a misprint there.
Oh,
If we can stick with these, that would work great. And if you need something special in between then, I can still work things out for you.
Is that the thing right where you enter?
oh, and yeah, that you can't, they won't let you in before 11:45, where it looks like, well, they give them time after lunch to get back to where they gotta get back to.
What they're doing is, I'm addressing that because I don't need everybody on the relieving shift tied up. I have people that can help you out. If you run into these things, please use these phone numbers. I know a lot of times people say, well, this happened to me 10 times. Don't let it fester. There's no problem that you're gonna bring to me that we can't handle. Yes, ma'am.
I had a situation this morning where one of my clients had already done the jail term. He was gonna get credit for time served. It was gonna be supposed to be just a walk-through release kind of, but he's still in jail, from yesterday to this morning. And, somebody there said that the judge should have put in the yellow card that it was gonna be, is there such a thing, category walk-through release or something? Who do we call for that? Who's in charge of the releases?
That would be Captain Whitmore.
Whitmore?
Yes, ma'am.
And like the stuff that should have been in the yellow card, it would be Whitmore?
Either him or me.
Okay.
Chief, who's in charge of, I don't see in your list of administrators, but who's in charge of the medical personnel?
I thought I had it on there. It's Captain John Gordon. Captain John Gordon?
John Gordon?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Chief, are you saying we can go at third shift thing?
Yes, sir, you can. Let me know. If you are denied access, let me know. Does everybody know where my office is? That's the biggest thing. We're kind of stuck in a corner. As you come up to the information window where you normally check in, we're on the other side of the metal detector, first door to your left. And I don't mind any of y'all walking in at any time you wish. My office is always open to you.
I see these restricted hours? I mean, does that mean now all the other times it exists? Because I keep really weird hours.
That's fine. I have no problem at all pulling an inmate out for you at 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
If I could conference from this, but they'll ever take off at 5.
Well,
I've gotten that several times.
I've left you
Like,
that.
someone's having a bad day.
I left you that cell number, and don't, if you have a run-in like that at night, give me a call. Also included down here, a lot of times y'all use paralegals and private investigators and whatnot. There's a certain thing in there that I need to have. I don't know any of these people, and I just can't let somebody into the jail without a written request from you. And I have also named DOB, Social Security, driver's license, because we're going to run each one of them. I've had several that people say, yeah, he's my investigator, with him coming in with this history. You know, some of them are worse than the ones I'm got in jail.
Do you have to make a request each time, or can you have an open-ended request?
I will take an open-ended request, but I may ask you to reapply maybe a year or something like that. We will keep all that on file. Have a small section in here about conference room. Give the information desk a call if you need a big room, if you need to show video to your client, anything like that, give us a call. We'll schedule you a time that's convenient for you and when we've got a date open. Court closed. Please, if you're gonna have your client dressed for court, bring them into us. We will take care of them, tag them, and put them in our property room.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's allowed and not allowed on the clothing?
On the clothing, pretty much everything is allowable because we will take it back from the prisoner when he comes back to the jail.
So it doesn't have to be non-shoelaces or shoes?
No, sir. Bring them to me. If it becomes necessary for me to pull them out, we'll do it. Yes, ma'am.
I know on weekends there's visitation with family members,
Yes, ma'am.
so do you recommend coming like after a certain time?
I would come after about 5 o'clock. Cell phones and laptops, they're all fine with me. Bring them. If you need to bring them, bring them. Yes.
Dress code, it says professional attire or courtroom attire.
The
So
way
no
you're
blue
dre-
jeans?
I don't mind blue jeans. I don't mind polo tops. But we don't even allow visitors in with, especially female, I'm sorry, but with the non-sleeve shirts and the real short skirts and in the men flip-flops, I don't want to be paying for somebody's broken toe and all this steel and concrete over there. Yes, ma'am.
I've had a problem since I started practicing. Well, at first, when I bring my purse, there was lockers right there that I could use,
Yes, ma'am.
and they cut that off. So it forces me to leave my purse in my car if I want to come in. I personally have a severe problem with that, even though I'm right across the street from the jail. So what is an option for me, because my purse isn't my laptop or anything, and, you know, at the annex, I can bring my purse with me, I don't have a problem. It's at the main jail, I have a problem.
Have you ever noticed police departments and sheriff's offices aren't in the best neighborhoods? Doesn't matter where you go. I understand.
They quit letting me about 2 years ago, to let me use the lockers, because they said the keys kept getting walked off with.
I have had that problem, that is true.
But I mean, what
is the locker? The locker.
If there's not a locker available, let one of us know in jail administration and we'll find a way to secure your bag. I don't want to see you lose anything out there left in the cars.
I have a question. You know, the transients and all those streetwalkers have all these elaborate light systems there by City Hall protecting them when they cross the street. Why is it that attorneys take a risk and have to run through the street sometimes? We have no protection whatsoever for us, walkway, you know, lines on the street or anything. Is that the county problem, the city problem?
It will be the city that has to take care of it, and it's come up about a dozen times that I know of, and there's never
Really?
been any action taken.
We're not worth them, you know.
My staff parks across the street too.
I know, that's what I mean. So any of us going to the jail, you know, even visitors, you know, parents of the offenders or, you know, whatever, we've got nothing there to protect us from the traffic. And yet, right around the corner, you have, you know, transients, people like that have
I
no
understand.
protection in the world, you know, for that.
I understand, and we'll try to address it again. And I think that's probably in about as many years it's been addressed about that many times, about 12 times. And so far, no action. But we can contact the city again. Yes, sir.
It's my understanding that all the judges have different instructions on when their defendants are to be released from the jail. Like if they have to be released to a probation officer after conditions read or anything like that. Is that true?
Yes, sir, it is.
Can we find out what that is and let our clients know? I mean, if it's gonna take a day or two for them to get out, if I tell them in advance, they're okay with it. But when I call the jail and I find out why they're out, someone says, well, we need to pay the work, or we're waiting for an APO. I hear a different answer every time I call.
This, what you're describing is a real complaint and a real concern for us. I hope here in the past month or so that y'all have seen a little bit better than what it was. Because Mr. Syed and I have had numerous conversations about it. And a lot of times if a guy is released or supposed to be released on Friday and it's after 5 o'clock and no APO shows up, we're stuck with it. Because the court actually says that we have to give them these conditions. That's where your problem comes from. Mr. Diaz?
How many times you call the jailhouse and they tell you, we were waiting for the pretrial services officer to come and take him out?
Yes, sir.
That could be tomorrow.
You are correct, yes, sir.
So we really don't know when he's gonna get out.
Now, the nightmare for us is all we're holding him on is the conditions for the court.
Is that a problem then to address with Whitmore or with you? Or?
No, ma'am, that one will lie with myself and the sheriff. We're addressing that with probation as we speak. Yes, sir.
I recently had a client who had been arrested on an out-of-county warrant, and a bond was set. After his arrest, the individual went to the district attorney's office and filed another complaint against him with the district attorney's office. And the assistant district attorney then called over to the jail. There was no arrest warrant, there was no arrest. The assistant district attorney's office, VA, called over to the sheriff's office and told them to hold him on that complaint without bond. And the sheriff was doing that until I had a long talk with him. Is that a common practice to allow the district attorney's office to set bonds on people who are in jail without having been arrested on the charge?
No, sir, and I'm not familiar with the incident you're even describing.
I can't hear you.
I said, no, sir, and I'm not even familiar with your incident.
Well, are you aware at all that that actually happened?
No, sir, I'm not.
Well, I know of one instance where it did happen, and perhaps you need to talk to your personnel about that.
After we get through here, could you give me a name so I could?
I've given you the name once already, but I'll do it again.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the current status of the recording of attorney-client conferences at the jail?
If you utilize the attorney booth, there will be no recording.
But all of the phone banks are being recorded?
Yes, sir, they are. Yes, sir.
And
To follow up on Eric's question there, could we get copies of those requirements that the courts give y'all to release people from their individual courts?
You could.
I'm sure y'all have instruction written down somewhere. Is that something we could just get a copy, like a little packet or something that we could spread out to everyone?
We could either make it up for you or you could get it from the courts. It'd probably be easier just to get it from us since we have them all.
To get it from who?
To get it from us, since we have them all.
Well, yeah, I figured y'all would just have them all together, so if I came by and requested those, I could get a copy of all that?
You could either do that, or we could make it available to the local bar, if that would be
Yeah,
easier.
that's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, sir.
Since we are restricted to the attorney booths, could you coordinate with the adult probation department and let them know either don't use the booth, or at least when they're in there, if we come in and politely let them know that we're an attorney, and we need to talk to our client in private, that they not start giving us a bunch of flack and attitude and get out of the booth?
We can certainly give you precedence, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He put a sign in the attorney door that says, not for use by probation, parole, or non, because it says attorney, he's right, they give you grub. You're like, oh, I'm listen to this, and you're like, well, you're not that. So there could be just a sign on the door that says, this room is not for use by parole. It would be a big.
Or at least
Well, it already says that. It says attorney only, and they're in there every time you go in there, and they, oh, it's just a move. So there'd be a secondary sign that specifically tells them. Because they don't need to.
We can certainly do something.
I just want to protect your lighting outside.
I'm sorry, missed you again. I'll come right back to you. Yes, ma'am.
Back to recording of phone banks. How are those monitored or utilized?
They're utilized for a strictly peniological interest, and that's for our use. Do they get sent to the DA if subpoenaed? Yes.
But we can subpoena them too.
Yes, you can.
Do you have the DA subpoena attorney-client phone calls in particular, or do they just get them all?
They get what they request. If we know that it is an attorney phone call, when we're making the recording, it will be deleted.
So if we get on the phone and we say, okay, I'm your attorney.
Yes.
Then that phone call will get deleted?
Yes, ma'am. We will not send it.
So then that's our caveat for you on the phone.
Identify yourself, huh?
Yes, sir. I keep missing you. I'm sorry.
This situation may never happen again, but last week I was mediating a family law case, a divorce case with Bill Kelly. And the opposing counsel and the opposing party, she had filed a domestic violence charge against my client. And while we were in mediation, 30 minutes before successfully completing it, she called the sheriff's department to have him arrested before it was concluded. And on the information the sheriff's department provided to me, it said, caller so-and-so called in and said her husband was at mediation with William Kelly at this time, and to come immediately and have him arrested.
For what?
And your officers came into the mediation room. I'll tell you, they were quite cordial. They were very nice. They handcuffed him very politely. But they interrupted the mediation and drug him to jail. Is there a policy that your department has as far as being used by civil litigants to get involved in the middle of a mediation? I mean, it was clearly written down by whoever took the call from your department, what was going on and where he was at and why he was there and who the caller was and everything. Do y'all have a policy on that?
I really can't even comment on what you've told me. It's a, that's a really, it's bizarre to say the least, but. Can I speak to you two also after this? Give me some names and whatnot, and we can check it out?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
And the only reason why I bring it up is because it was your deputies that executed the warrant.
Okay, sir. Yes, ma'am. Finally.
I'm not gonna say
I
anything.
requested my client's jail calls on the case, and to my surprise, on the recordings were my meetings with my client. So they had gone to the district attorney's office, which I was in the attorney booth. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. So I called the annex and I asked them why. And what they told me is from Friday, I guess Friday night or whenever they start visitation, until visitation is over, they do not turn those recorders off. And I was very surprised to get my own meetings with my client. That is at the annex, and they've told me, I don't go there during the weekend now because of visitation, and I don't think it's properly monitored when those recordings are on and when those recordings are off, because I don't think that the jail understands the significance of what happens when you record an attorney-client interview. And if by chance they get sent to the district attorney's office, or by chance they're released to somebody else, it is a huge deal. And when I received it from the district attorney's office, I was stunned.
I am too.
Well, I've been told by some of your employees, they will warn me that that is happening for the week. If I wanna go see my client on a Sunday or Saturday or something, I am warned ahead of time. By some employee did warn me. I don't know whether all of them should be doing that, but that the recorder would be on.
I'm glad they're doing that.
One
Well,
person
now
did
they
that, not
put-
her, I guess.
They put a colored sign up. Now, it went from, these calls were recorded. I'm in the attorney booth. I'm in the attorney booth, not just a regular booth. I'm in, out at the annex, you know, that one that we go to. These calls are recorded, then they put it in, color. It's either an attorney booth or it's not.
Yeah, well.
You
I
know, I
will-
think we ought to be able to rely on the fact that it's an attorney booth.
I will look into that for you.
Every now and then I'll get a client call from the jail, and it's one of your jailers that calls for them, and then they ask for me, and then I talk to them. Are those recorded as well?
No, sir.
Okay, so but again, for what I said, if we say this is an attorney, I'm your attorney, then you're supposed to stop recording that, or sending that over to me.
In situations like that, that is usually something that's done in the pod. And the officer will make the phone call off of his phone and then transfer it to an inmate's wall phone so that they can talk to you. Any other questions?
Is there any way to stop the recording of any telephone calls or just from an inmate or being recorded?
You're speaking of a collect call made from the inmate to you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that is another area where we could record it. We have access to it.
But I mean, is there any way to stop the recording?
What are your safeguards? What are your safeguards to protect the attorney-client privilege? So we can feel more comfortable about visitation with them, phone calls with them. What exactly are your safeguards?
Right now, we try to intercept every one of them that's made, and we do a very good job. But we're in the middle of a contract for our telephone services, and we've been talking to them about getting a list of phone numbers for the attorneys, either from yourselves or the bar, and we can block those. That's been one of the things we've been talking about, and I know that this is not only happening here. I read an article the other day, I think it was out of a Seattle newspaper, where they were having real trouble. And I think it's also occurring in Travis. But I can give you a little sigh of relief here. The companies that are doing it and are in trouble right now everywhere are not the company that we currently have. They're very good about it. Any questions? Okay, good. Thank you.
Dale, if you give me just a privileged moment here, I wanted to say to the group, you know, managing, you're our greatest asset. The defense attorney, the bar is the greatest asset we have in operation of a jail, because you're the folks that are going to move them out of the jail. And I desperately need to move everyone that I can. In fact, I'll run a special today. We'll let you take one out today. If you'll come see me afterwards, we'll get your signature and you can take it. I understand, along with Chief McKenzie, that these attorney-client conversations are as sacred as a doctor relationship with their patients. And I would not want my doctor to tell me to wind up in the hands of somebody that's not supposed to have that information. We will soon get a new phone system in there, and I would like to have a system to, when you announce, and you need to do this, every time you call up there, don't assume that we're going to take care of the protection. That you need to state at the start of the conversation and maybe during the conversation that this is attorney so-and-so, so-and-so, I'm here and I'm speaking confidentially with my client, give his name, and it's there. And if you get any of those conversations back from the district attorney's office, shame on us. Shame on me. We just can't allow that privilege to go. The DA wanted free access to these phone calls. When the phone system's set up, they can sit in their office and then just dial up and listen to the phone calls in the jail. And to make it easier on us, they said, we're not going to do that, all right? I've already discussed it. The DA's not going to have access to. I know, you be quiet. No, Counselor, honestly, and I've listened, and I should have listened carefully before just today, but your concerns are my concerns. We've got to do a better job than what we're doing in protecting this valuable piece of information when you talk to your client. Because if it gets in the wrong hands, I don't care. If it gets in the wrong hands, they can find another way to use it against you and your client. The fact that they now know, well, yeah, I did it, but there was a reason that, wait a minute, you don't want that. You don't want that to go anywhere. So I'm right up on the edge of Dale's time. Please let us know. I can't do anything, counselors, if you don't let us know. And the best thing to do is drop it in writing to me. I've got a couple here. Former Judge Diaz, he lets me know immediately when something is not going properly, and we do try to respond to it. It's in writing, though. Once it's in writing, it becomes a document. So one question for me, and then I'll step down.
Might we have some kind of assurance that those protections are also going to be extended to mail? Because I know there's at least one prosecutor who's working in this county now, who was working in other counties, who was directing jail staff in those counties to go grab somebody's papers and look through them all in a fishing expedition to try to find something when she or he didn't know what might be there, but hey, there might have been something, and she didn't bother to get a warrant.
The question or the comment was that we extend this telephone privilege to where we protect this confidentiality, the same with attorney-client privileged mail that may come in. Right on the outside of the envelope, please. Are you listening to me? Right on the outside of the envelope, if you're writing somebody into that jail, I don't know why you want to write them, but if you do write them, that this is attorney-client protected speech. Now, we're going to open it and make sure you didn't put a little something in there for them, all right, just to check. But we have to do that for the security of our facility. Not saying an attorney would ever do that, but they do. Judge, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll work with you.
Thank you. All right, we have next is Dill Adley, our county auditor.